Through the inside, go. We competing today.
Go. There you go.
We're moving. We're moving.
This is Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh, presented by FanDuel.
After 10 days off, the Jets get after it today at MetLife Stadium against the Buffalo Bills. Coming up, we'll go one-on-one with head coach Robert Saleh, and we'll also check in with Brian Baldinger and Ethan Greenberg. But we start, as always, with Bart Scott and Leger Douzable. Bart, Mike White expected to make his third NFL start today. What have you liked most about his game so far?
His suddenness, decisiveness, right? And in last week, he showed that he was able to respond in a tough environment on the road, come down to be able to answer a score. I think he's done everything that he's needed to do to earn another right to be the starter. I think he should be the starter until he doesn't play well. I think he's really got the confidence of his teammates. And what he does is he allows you to evaluate the rest of your team. He allows you to evaluate and get a true understanding of what type of offensive line you have, what type of receivers you have, how your running back is able to play within the scheme and on third down blocking schemes. Because he's unlocked this offense, he's played at such a high level, he's starting to even grow. And that's a good problem to have two good quarterbacks. As Johnson, I think, did a great account of himself. And also eventually Zach Wilson to catch up, and I think he's getting on-the-job training by being able to watch and get a different perspective.
Leger, Bart comes out hot today.
Yeah, he did.
10 different pass catchers for the Jets against Cincinnati. They follow that up with 11 different pass catchers against the Indianapolis Colts. Now that teams have film on Mike White, how potentially will they start playing him differently?
Well, I don't know, EA, if they will play him differently because a defensive coach that I know used to always say, when you have a young quarterback, you don't want to blitz him because he just knows where to go with the football because he knows you're playing man coverage. So Mike White has done a really good job of being able to sit, progress, and process what offenses are doing. He's gone through his reads on that touchdown pass to Tyler Kroft in the Cincinnati game. That was his third or fourth read in that offensive scheme right there. So Mike White has done a really good job of taking what the defense is giving him. He's not tried to do too much, hasn't tried to be Superman. He's lived within the offense and has been efficient with the football.
Zach Wilson's going to be chomping at the bit, though, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, he wants to go out and he wants to prove everybody right and prove that he's deserving of the number 2 pick. As we see all the young rookie quarterbacks kind of struggle a little bit, we saw Justin Fields against the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of take the next step. But it's been ugly and it's been up and down. And that's what being a rookie is all about. It's about thinking you know, but understanding that you don't know that you don't know. And, Wilson's going to be in. I'll be excited to see what he's learned from watching for a couple of weeks and being able to kind of get a different perspective about how to manage the game. Because remember, first of all, being a quarterback is about managing the game, managing the situation, understanding the situation, and picking your spots when to be great.
Coming up after the break, we'll sit down with Jets head coach Robert Saleh.
Now it's time to go inside the walls, brought to you by FanDuel.
We're about halfway through the season. What's it been like coaching this team and trying to develop the young guys?
The same thing would be anywhere else. It's fun, it's exciting because you see a lot of learning moments and a lot of aha moments from this group. And we talk about a roller coaster ride and the ups and downs and the faith that these guys are getting better and they're going to get to where we all want them to go. And every day I feel like they've been getting better, and that's been the fun part of this. And we've had some legitimate wins. Beating Cincinnati and Tennessee, those are real. Those were not fake. And our guys played really good football. Those young guys stepped up and played exceptional ball. We've had some tight games in Carolina, Atlanta, and then we had not so good games with the Patriots and Indianapolis. But at the same time, we talk about this roller coaster ride, and there's going to be days where we look like a playoff contender, and there's going to be days where we look like we don't belong on the field. But at the same time, you see this group getting better. They're getting more competitive. Our offense has been fantastic the last couple of weeks, broke a lot of Jets records, and now defensively, we just got to weather the storm and get ourselves to playing consistently good football.
What do you point to, though, for the success the offense has had the past couple games? Because it's not like you've had stability at the quarterback position because you've been playing with a couple backups, but the ball distribution has been there, and no matter who you've been putting in the game, they've been successful.
One of the big things is the continuity that they've been able to establish over the first half of the season. I know Corey's been missing these last couple of weeks, but for the most part, the group has been relatively healthy. And, they're getting these reps, they're learning, they're getting practice reps, they're not having to miss time, and they're learning one another. And, so credit to Mike and Josh being able to step in, and you can see our offense playing much faster. And hopefully we can continue that continuity, stay healthy, and continue to grow and get better.
You just mentioned speed, so they're playing fast and free.
Yeah.
The other F here is LaFleur has had a flow.
Yeah, it's, but that goes with getting plays, right? So against Cincinnati, that first drive, I mean, it was a long drive, got a lot of plays in, got a lot of good looks at the defense, got a good idea of what they were doing during with their game plan within that first drive, that he was able to pivot and start attacking the way the offense needed to attack. Same thing, Indianapolis. Get a first down. I think we had 6 or 7 plays in that first drive. Had the punt, but there's a lot of information that's taken in those first 6 or 7 plays, and then the offense can pivot and get to where it needs to go to attack. And I think that's where you see the success happening is, one, they're getting better because of all the practice reps, continuity, the youth getting all these reps, but also they've been able to sustain some drives early to get some information so they can start playing.
Defensively, you've always said it starts up front with the defensive line. They have high standards themselves. I'm sure they're not happy about what happens in Indianapolis. Coaching staff-wise, what did you guys see when you took a step back over the weekend?
There's a lot of things that we can do schematically. I won't get into it too much right now, but there's things that we can do to help. There's things that from a technique standpoint that from a player standpoint we can show and teach from and learn from, for that matter, so we can eliminate some of the space that's being created in the run game. And so they're fixable things, and they're things that we've got to relentlessly attack in order to, otherwise teams will just continue running the football the way they did on Thursday.
And what do you mean when you say space? Because you've mentioned that a couple of times now, as far as what you have to do in terms of negating those big plays on the ground.
Yeah, it's when you have 260 yards rushing and almost 200 yards are before contact, it means that the running back was having there's a lot of space to run through. And schematically, just doing what you can with regards to your techniques, your alignments, your eyes, and what we're asking of our players in all aspects to be able to eliminate that space so you're not getting so much yards before contact. It's one thing if, a running back is just breaking tackles and he's having a heck of a day and you're just having a bad tackling day. It's another thing when there's space. That's a collective thing. That's everybody. And it's something that we've been working to try to address.
What changes for you short-term and long-term without Marcus May? You've been juggling at safety all year.
Yeah, we talk about opportunity and injuries and all that stuff. It's a lot easier to handle when a position group has one injury and another position group has another, and you get it scattered. But when one injury or one group suffers a lot of injuries, from LaMarcus to Marcus May and all the different things that have happened to that group, you're trying to accelerate the development of guys that weren't even here for training camp. Credit to those guys; they're very smart. They're into it, and they're just chomping at the bit for these opportunities.
You coaching a young team. That's going to be the theme throughout the year. But what do you make of being 2-1 at home and still searching for that first victory on the road in the friendly confines of MetLife Stadium?
Winning on the road is one of the harder things to do in professional sports, and for at least with the NFL, with crowd noise and all the different things that happen. It is difficult. It's something that you got to get over the hump, though, if you ever want to be a team that is really in contention for the playoffs or contention for winning a championship. These are all things that are learned, and it's something that I think our guys will continue to get better at as year goes on. We
talked to a few guys this week about your team meetings, and some of them always talk about your riddles. You got anything planned for them this week? No, they've depends. They come out organically. I might have something for tomorrow, but for the most part, they come out when I feel like they need something. Thanks, Coach. Thank you.
Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh is brought to you by Pepsi, the official soft drink of the New York Jets. Up next, we'll go inside the film room with Brian Baldinger, and Ethan Greenberg will preview Week 10 in the AFC East. Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh is brought to you by FanDuel.
Welcome back. Eric Allen alongside Bart Scott, Leger Douzable. Bart, what gives with these young Jets 2-1 at home. Conversely, 0-5 on the road.
Well, it's home cooking for a reason. You understand that when you're playing at home, you have the confines of your home, you have routine, you understand exactly where you're going to be. When you're on the road, you have to manufacture your own energy. You don't have a crowd to feed off of unless you're a guy like me that loves negativity, loves being booed. So when you think about it, they have to figure out how to get off to fast starts, but they also got to figure out how to be able to perform well in a hostile environment, because you're not going to have the cheers, you're not going to have the energy in your favor. And they have to figure out how to get up to fast starts and not turn the football over on the road.
But the Jets are at home today. Is this just emblematic of a young team finding its way?
Yeah, I think this is a young team that finds its way. As Bart alluded to, when you're playing at home, especially your younger players. Now, we've seen the first couple of weeks of the season, the offense has started slow, but the last couple of weeks, the offense has started a lot faster, and that's, equated to some success. You saw it in the Cincinnati game. Even though they lost versus the Colts, the offense put up a lot of points, I believe over 30 points, and Josh Johnson threw for over 300 and I believe 80 yards. So, teams that have a younger team usually generally start a lot faster at home or more comfortable at home. So I believe this young team is finding its way. They just got to take some of those home performances, take them on the road where the offense and defense are gelling together, and we talk about complementary football.
Let's talk about one of those young guys just growing up before our eyes, Elijah Moore. What do you like most about his game?
Well, I like the suddenness of his game, right? I love the ability to separate, and I also understand and love the football acumen. A lot of those plays, you got to understand, like when you are a fast player, you got to understand when to take some speed off the fastball. He's been able to do that, understanding how to make sure that his routes time up with the progressions and understand the routes and concepts and, the routes on the other side that's supposed to clear out for him. You saw a lot of those routes where he was running horizontally, being able to clear some zones, make plays and turn it up and be sudden when it's time to. So it's about understanding what gear to be in and what gear is appropriate for the route combinations and also the defense in which you're facing.
Elijah Moore and the Jets have a big challenge today because they will be facing the #1 pass defense in the National Football League. That, of course, is the Buffalo Bills. For more on the Bills, let's go to Brian Baldinger.
Thanks a lot, EA. I want to go in the film room and take a look at the #1 defensive football from the Buffalo Bills, and they're led by a very good secondary. The Bills packed the #1 defense in the NFL. They're led by their two safeties, Jordan Poyer on the right and Micah Hyde on your left. Here, Poyer is that extra man, and he takes on Carlos Hyde right in the hole. These guys are excellent tacklers, whether they're at the line of scrimmage or in the back end. Like right here, Micah Hyde has man coverage on Agnew on this little pick route. He's right in the passing lane right here and defends that pass. And then they have a shutdown corner in Tre'Davious White up at the top. And they will blitz any of their corners to get an extra man to the quarterback. And right here, Tre'Davious White comes and he gets to the quarterback right here, Trevor Lawrence. And on the other side is Levi Wallace. Levi Wallace is up at the top against Marvin Jones right here. The Bills, for the third time this year, kept the opposition out of the end zone, did not let up a touchdown. In fact, the Bills have only given up 5 passing touchdowns all year. And the 5th member of their secondary is in the slot, Taron Johnson, right here, number 24. He breaks on his ball. Everybody in the secondary is a great tackler. And they play very, very well together. They support each other. Taron Johnson is a good blitzer as well. They all can blitz, they all can cover, they all can tackle.
This is the AFC East Roundup.
Taking a look around the AFC East, the Dolphins got their second consecutive win, taking down the Ravens in South Florida on Thursday Night Football. Now they have some extended rest before coming to MetLife Stadium next week, but elsewhere in the division, the Patriots host the Browns. The Pats are coming off a strong defensive performance, holding the Panthers to just 6 points. They also forced 3 interceptions. And quarterback Mac Jones put up modest numbers in the air, throwing for 139 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Both of these teams right now sit at 5-4, and Cleveland's coming off a blowout division win over the Bengals. New England, however, is on a 3-game winning streak and just a half game back of Buffalo. And let's actually take a look at the standings entering Week 7, where it looked like the Bills could run away with the division sitting at 4-2, the Patriots at 2-4. But like Kevin Garnett said, anything is possible. So you take a look at the standings now. New England right there with Buffalo. Both teams have 5 wins. Obviously the Patriots with 4 losses and the Bills with just 3. Lastly, the Jets are back home at MetLife Stadium taking on the Bills. Buffalo's coming off a tough loss to Jacksonville in which the Bills offense didn't find the end zone. But Josh Allen was victimized by Josh Allen. That's absolutely correct. The Jaguars pass rusher, Josh Allen, had a sack, an interception, and a fumble recovery of Bills quarterback Josh Allen. But on the other hand, with the Jets, the defense is coming off extended rest and now will play the rest of the season without safety Marcus May. So how will both of these teams respond? Kickoff is around the corner.
Don't go away. We're back with final thoughts on the matchup with Buffalo after this. Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh is brought to you by MetLife.
Welcome back. Eric Allen with Bart Scott and Leger Douzable. All right, let's dive into this Jets-Bills matchup. Jets are facing a wounded Buffalo. I mean, they're coming off a loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Nobody saw that coming.
Well, you talk about missing two of their starting offensive linemen, that's a recipe for success. The best Josh Allen in their last contest was the Jaguars' Josh Allen, and he was able to cause havoc, able to get to Josh Allen. He turned the ball over. Remember, he has a history of turning the ball over, especially when he tries to run with the football. People don't realize the ball comes away from your body. A lot of quarterbacks hold it like a loaf of bread. It's going to be important that the Jets are able to put pressure on him because you don't want allow Emmanuel Sanders and allow Stephon Diggs to really get loose. So you have to be able to get that pressure because the back end is struggling without their leader, Marcus May. Communication will not be at a premium. A lot of guys are going to be asked to do things to try and fill the void. Not one player can replace Marcus May. So it's going to be incumbent that that defensive line, plays as advertised.
Leger, is this a get-right game for that defensive line? A lot of pride in that room. They didn't like the way they played against the Colts.
Yeah, I think it's a get-right game for the defensive line, but I think it's a get-right game for the Jets. If you look at what the Jets have accomplished, just give Jets all the top division teams. They just seem to knock them off. The Tennessee Titans, at the time, the Bengals were the number one team in the AFC. But yes, the defensive line struggled last week versus the Indianapolis Colts. Bart just alluded to it. The Buffalo Bills offensive line, especially those two guard positions, they've really struggled the last few weeks. Last week, Jacksonville Jaguars defensive line hadn't routinely got to the quarterback, but it seems like everybody was getting to the quarterback. Taven Bryant had 2 sacks. Josh Allen had the sack. And also Fred Smoot on the outside had a sack fumble at the end of the game. And Bart also alluded to that Josh Allen routinely turns the ball over, has over 35 fumbles since starting at the quarterback position for the Buffalo Bills. So this is a game that I routinely always say that this defense is predicated off the defensive line creating havoc, but this game especially is predicated off the defensive line getting after that offensive line and getting to Josh Allen.
Bart, we don't think about this Bills defense as dominant, but they are good across the board on all levels. The Jets offensively, they're starting to move in the right direction, and they're getting Corey Davis back in the lineup. Well,
led by Micah Hyde, who I think is one of the best ball hawking safeties in the game. White on the outside at corner. They've invested heavily in their defensive line. Ed Oliver, they went out and invested and drafted in free agency. Star Latule. So they have the names, and Les Frazier has them really playing at a high level. So they're going to try and take some of the airspace away from Mike White. Try and close the distance, try and take away the easy throws to dump off passes. Maybe a little 2-man where you can hug these guys up. And it's going to be incumbent that when Mike White sees that and when LaFleur sees it, that you kind of get some rub routes when you catch them in 2-man. You got to have your shifts and motion to kind of figure it out to confirm it's not cover 2. And once you figure out that, that's when the rub routes come and you give guys opportunities to try and manufacture one-on-ones on the outside.
Lastly, let's flip to the other side of the ball. The Jets are moving forward without Marcus May. Yeah. What does that mean, especially in today's matchup against the Buffalo Bills and a guy like Josh Allen, who likes to throw the ball down the field, and he also gets to the perimeter?
Yeah, it's a massive loss if you talk about the communicator on the back end. And not one guy, as Bart alluded to, is going to be able to replace Marcus May, but a guy like Ashton Davis, who to me had his best game that last Thursday night versus the Indianapolis Colts, is a guy that's going to have to step up. And even though he's only in year 2, a young player, he's kind of has the most experience on that back end. So he's going to have to step up and probably be the communicator in that back end to a guy like Neeson, to a guy like Wilson that potentially will start opposite of him. But, the Bills put you in such a bind because they go a lot of 3, 4 wide, and even with their tight ends, they split them out, sometimes go 5 wide. So communication is going to be a key back there. So Ashton Davis is a guy that's going to have to step up this week for sure.
Big game at MetLife Stadium. It is the Jets and the Bills. Enjoy your football Sunday, everyone.